my Supernatural family, it's me, Chris, and welcome back to the Supernatural Room, the place where Supernatural fans come together to listen to some good old-fashioned fanfic. So, settle in, get something to drink, 'cause it's story time. Now, before I get into the story this week, I had a plan. I had big plans, and unfortunately they didn't work out. The good news is I just got back from NashCon. It was amazing. Okay. But my plan was to film this story at NashCon. Unfortunately, the way they had it all set up this year, there really wasn't a good spot where I could set up my equipment and have the audio and video have a good enough quality. So I had to scratch it. But I'm back in my happy place, and I will read the story to you here. So get this. Today's story is found on fanfic.net, and it's called The Real Dean, parentheses, and Sam, and is by Thorns Have Roses. As always, I do have permission to read this story, and there will be a link down below. Little note from the author here. The story is based around that episode where Sam and Dean go to the Supernatural convention and they meet the characters Barnes and Damien. Well, the author has said here, I've been waiting patiently, or not so patiently, for years to see Barnes and Damien run across Sam and Dean again. I'm still hoping it will happen, but until then, I had to write this. Here we go. Damien, this motel looks like a roadside death trap. Damien shot his partner an exasperated look. It's also the only motel we've passed since we crossed the state line. And that's its only recommendation, Barnes replied sadly as Damien pulled into the lot and they got to see only too clearly the sagging roof and decades-old paint job. The awning over the doorways looked likely to collapse, and as it was a couple of pillars holding it up were dented like they'd been the victim of one too many bad drivers. But Damien was right. It was late afternoon, and they were hungry and tired, and had been driving since that morning. And as much as they wanted to get home, they were both adamant that they were not driving through the night. There was also a gas station and a cafe just down the road. They both got out promptly, just happy to stretch their legs. And that's when Barnes noticed it. He must have simply been too distracted by the eyesore that was the motel to notice it at first. But Barnes always noticed Impalas, especially, if he wasn't mistaken, beautiful black 1967 Impalas because he was a huge fan of this series of books. And the main characters in these books just happened to drive one. Damien! Barnes grabbed his partner's jacket to get his attention. Check it out! They couldn't help themselves. I couldn't either. They hurried over to the Impala, excited like kids on Christmas. They'd been to a few conventions where a handful of Impalas would always be parked in the lot, but not out in the real world. Barnes had only seen maybe a half a dozen. He wondered if the owner was a Supernatural fan too. If they're not, they at least know of Supernatural. 'Cause we let them know. Yes, we do. The car itself was in pristine condition. The paint gleamed, and the silver shone in the dipping sun. Barnes peered in the window and laughed. "Damien, this guy is definitely a fan." There was a box of cassette tapes in the front. Damien circled the car. "This is the most authentic 67 I've ever seen." They both knew he meant authentic to the series they both loved. Their eyes met over the roof, and they grinned. Barnes rested his arms on the roof and opened his mouth, about to quote one of his favorite lines from the book, when a deep voice startled them. "Hands off my car!" The deep voice barked sharply. Damien and Barnes both flinched and turned around and then froze in recognition. The man before them was not someone they'd ever forget. Dressed in jeans and a black tee with a plaid shirt over top, with short dark hair and bright green eyes, and a day's worth of stubble. The last and first time they'd met, they'd help him dig up graves. He'd called himself a big fan of Carver Edlund's books, then contradictingly hated on them, and hadn't even given them his name. "Oh, wow! Hi," Barnes said. This man in front of them had driven away and left 100 questions in the dust. "It's been what, 7, 8 years since that convention?" And honestly, the more time had passed, the less Barnes and Damien remembered about what had really gone down that night. Now it was just a fuzzy recollection. The green-eyed man frowned, like he couldn't figure out why they were still standing there staring at him. "Off the car," he repeated firmly. Barnes pulled his arm back. "Sorry, it's just, don't you recognize us?" His eyes narrowed and flicked back and forth between Barnes and Damien. Then there was a spark of recognition, but it certainly wasn't the "Oh, hey, nice to see you" spark. It was definitely more the "you've got to be shitting me" variety. "You're those guys," he said. "What are the odds, huh?" Damien said. "Hey, we should get dinner together. Catch up." Barnes nodded. "Since it looked like we're both here for the night, we'd love to hear about your baby." "Yeah, like, where'd you get the parts? I've never seen a copy look so authentic." "A copy? And the license plate. Did you have to pay extra to get that done? How easy was it to get it changed?" "Look, sorry, but I got some shit to get back to," the green-eyed man said flatly. He quickly walked up and opened the trunk. It squeaked just perfectly. And pulled out a small duffel bag. Then, with one last look over his shoulder, he slipped into the closest room. "That was kind of rude," Barnes remarked. Damien hesitated. "Barnes, did you see his hands? I think he had blood on them." "You're sure?" "I think he's in trouble." Inside the motel room, Sam was perched on the edge of one of the beds, shirtless, waiting for Dean to grab the sewing supplies. The Wendigo they'd hunted had ripped his back open, as well as bruised up both of them. Dean fished out the supplies and knelt on the bed behind his brother. "You won't believe who I just ran into," he muttered, while threading the needle expertly. Sam hissed sharply at the first contact, but stayed mostly still and silent as Dean began to work on the first of 4 slices across the top of his shoulder blade. "Sammy." Sam mumbled something in response, not really caring or paying attention to his brother as the needle slipped in and out of his frayed skin. "You remember back But Dean never got to finish that sentence because the door was shoved open and two men pushed inside. Sam gasped as Dean dropped the needle, leaving it to dangle from the half-stitched wound in favor of pulling his gun from the waistband of his jeans, leveling it at the intruders in a heartbeat. "Wow, wow, wow," one of the men said, and both set of hands flew up. "Don't shoot us!" "Oh my God," Dean complained loudly, pissed and exasperated. "What the hell are you doing here?" We saw blood," Barnes said, "on your hands, and we thought you might be in trouble." "Wait," Sam squinted at them, the low sun behind them making it harder to make out more than just shapes. "Dean, is that—" "Yeah, fans," he muttered, then louder. "Well, shut the damn door." They both shuffled in, slamming the door. "You're on the wrong side of it," said Dean. "Hey, man," Barnes spoke to Sam. "Are you okay?" "Just peachy. Now get out." Dean still hadn't lowered his gun. Sam grimaced. "Dean, put the gun down." "We can help you." "Damien." He stepped a bit to the side for a better look, and his eyes widened in horror when he saw Sam's back. "How did you do that?" "Dean, could you hurry up and finish?" Sam huffed impatiently. He knew there was no easy way to get rid of their unwanted guest, not with what they'd already seen, and his brother, holding his gun on them, clearly wasn't doing the job. So, instead, Sam hoped to get Dean to focus on the stitches. If Sam acted like his injury was hurting him, he knew Dean would snap into Big Brother mode and hopefully be less inclined to shoot Barnes and Damien just to get them out of there. Son of a bitch. The gun was reholstered in his waistband, and those steady hands, those big, strong, steady hands, picked up the needle again. With the gun out of sight, Barnes and Damien both relaxed a bit. Both still felt like they should do something. There was a man injured in front of them. His torso was bruised up, too. And, is that an anti-possession tattoo? Barnes blurted. Damien elbowed him in the gut, shooting him a look that clearly said they had more important things to be focusing on. Barnes ignored him. "I mean, we considered getting them done, but the books weren't really specific enough to get an accurate drawing, so we decided not to." "How'd you decide on that design?" Sam and Dean both stared at him like he had two heads. "Look, chuckleheads, I've told you before, and you didn't bother believing me. What makes you think I'm going to tell you again?" Dean said. Barnes laughed. "You cannot expect us to believe that. I mean, you guys are some fans, I'll give you that. The car, the tats, the crappy motel, calling each other by their names. But those books are fiction. No way a real person could survive what Sam and Dean have been through." "So what? You think we're playing at some sort of game? That this," he gestured to Sam's back with his free hand, "was just 'cause we're fans?" Dean spit that last word out. "You guys should go," Sam said quietly. "Please?" "Look, those books—" "They're not books," Sam said. He had to speak up. He felt Dean tense behind him, ready to verbally slap the men in front of them, and there was no doubt in his mind that would just make it worse. "There are life stories. The author, Chuck, he's a prophet. He gets visions of our lives and writes them down to make money." Honestly, Sam felt telling them Chuck was God was not necessary. "So he's the righteous man? The rude, loudmouth jerk?" Damien scoffed, watching Sam intently. Dean bristled behind him, but never stopped his smooth movements, determined to sew up his brother quickly, most likely so he could show them exactly what he thought of their opinions. "And you really played chew toy for Lucifer?" he continued scathingly. Except when he said it, he saw something on Sam's face. He didn't move. Not really. But his face went to stone, and his eyes flickered with a very real combination of fire and fear. If Damien hadn't been watching so closely, he doubted he would have seen it. But it derailed his tirade immediately, and hesitantly he wondered, could you fake something like that? He didn't think so. Much softer, Damien asked, but how could anyone deal with that? He wasn't sure if he meant Lucifer, or death, or any other thing that he had read about. "You know the answer to that," Sam replied. Barnes stared at his partner, noting the change in his stance. Was Damien seriously giving them the benefit of the doubt? He nudged him to get his attention, and asked simply, "Dee?" "We dug up graves that night," Damien said. "Yeah. You helped save everyone in that building," Dean said. "If that's true, then you guys have saved the world." Barnes phrased it like a question. "Job's not as glamorous as it sounds," Dean muttered. "Thank you," the tall man said, and Dean's head snapped up. Thing was, it wasn't very often the Winchesters got any recognition for their deeds, but he could hear the sincerity in Barnes's voice, and the elder brother felt the urge to shoot them. Lessen, just a bit. He tied off the thread, and Sam stood up a bit stiffly, going over to his duffel. "We should leave," Damien blurted. Even though he had 1,000 questions for them, he thought back to every book he'd pored over and every trial they had been through, and somehow in that moment felt every bit the intruder into their lives. They sure as hell didn't want his questions. They didn't need to relive the horror he'd read about. He grabbed Barnes's arm. They turned abruptly, but Barnes paused, hand on the doorknob. "The real Dean, huh?" "Just Dean. Dean Winchester." Sam handed Damien something. He grabbed it, glanced down at the row of neatly scrawled numbers. "In case you ever run into trouble," he said. Then he tilted his head to the door, and the two men listened, shutting themselves outside of the motel room. "Did that really just happen?" Barnes whispered. Under the dim light of the motel, Damien glanced at the paper in his hand again, then tucked it safely in his pocket. "Come on." They slowly walked to the motel office, passing long glances at the Impala shining under the neon glare of the road sign. And while the girl at the desk took their credit card info, Barnes thought he heard the all-too-famous growl of baby. Taking their keys, they stepped from the office. The first thing they noticed was that the '67 Chevy Impala was nowhere in sight. The end. Yeah, I'd say that was a good con story. I like them going back and revisiting those two characters. I agree with her. They should have been brought back. But I think at this point in the series where the plot has gone, is just no longer viable for the writers to write in supernatural as part of supernatural. We'll have definitely more comical episodes, but I don't think we'll go back to those days, which is sad. I do do miss them. That was a good episode. That was a good story. 2 thumbs up for the author. I liked how she kept the Damon and Barnes as still those wide-eyed fans, and they knew every little detail and could tell everything was right, and it did take them a while to say, wow, okay, maybe this is Sam and Dean. But I have a feeling after this night, it'll kind of fade in their memory again like the first meeting did. And who knows. Anyhow, wanted to do just a little quick blurb on my experience at NashCon. It was absolutely amazing. I highly recommend, if you ever get a chance to go to a con, or even just part of a con, to go. For newbies, which I was last year, karaoke night is always free, so definitely go. If you can stand loud music, because it does get loud, and the crowd screams, and they sing along, the energy in it is just awesome. So definitely go. Same thing with the concert for Loudon Swain. Breathtaking. I was up in the pit, what's called the pit, which is on the side of the stages. There's a little area where people can stand and dance. Most of the crowd just kind of sits, but the energy level is still just like through the roof. And for this year, for the song Amazing, someone had put together, and I wish I could quickly look up her name, but I'm totally forgetting it. She put together this wonderful light show where across the seats it became a rainbow, and then the pits had clear lights, which were the clouds. It was so awesome. And Rob was just shocked, and he said that it took him to another level of existence. It was just tears. Anyhow, so that was that night. The panels were awesome. I only got to see J2 in the afternoon for the general admission panel. They were hysterical. And let's see, what else did I do? Oh, I watched Misha's and Rachel's and Sam, Brianna and Kim's, and let's see, I did get my picture with Misha. Here it is. Look at this squishy little face. Oh my god, he's so cute. I just love him. And I got to talk to him at Otto's, and he looked at me like right in the eye as we were talking about my question, and oh my god, his eyes really are that blue. I took my breath away. And then I got to meet Jared, gave me a high five. It was the first time I met him. It was awesome. I got his signature on his little Funko Pop, baby driving the car, and I had Jensen's from last year that he signed. And since Jensen was King of Mardi Gras for the gold panel, which I didn't get to attend, but a friend of mine, Chris, did crowns for Jensen. I do have my little Jensen crown, and you can find this on other YouTube postings, but when he came out, he looked, Jared actually pointed out to the audience, and he looked and he saw the whole crowd in the crowns, and he went, hold on, and he went backstage and he got this plastic crown and he put it on and he came walking out. My people. It was great. I watched that later. Let's see. Oh, got to see Brianna sing for the first time at the concert. Oh, amazing! So, of course, bought the album. Got to see Rob and Jason sing Hallelujah, which is my favorite song. Live was so amazing to hear the crowd echo the chorus back, or not echo, but sing the chorus part to them. Again, just tears. So I got another Loudon Swain and another Jason Manns. So that was cool. I got to meet my friend Becky from Bama, or Becky at Bama. No, yeah, Becky from Bama. That's her YouTube channel. So check that out. She's an awesome person. And I got to meet Alana King. This little sweet bottom. Oh my gosh, she's so adorable. I love her videos. So check those out too. And let's see. Oh, I also got this book called Conventional Wisdom. Every Con Has a Story, which is a book, a collection of stories fans have written about their experience with supernatural fandom, the show, and I can never say her last name. I hope I'm saying it right. Lynn Zerbernis also had a little story in here, and Chris Mecki, the photographer for the con, has a story in here too. So I would definitely check it out if you can. You can buy it on Amazon. I'll try and link that down below. Speaking of Lynn, I also finally, this was the last book of hers that I needed, got Fan Phenomena Supernatural. You can buy this on Amazon too. However, Amazon prices it like a textbook. So don't buy it on Amazon. Buy it at the con. Much, much cheaper. I did get to meet Brianna, so I got her to sign my poster of her. So now I have Kim and Brianna's posters signed. And, oh my goodness. Oh, I bought a couple little goodies for some pen pals I happen to have. And, oh, I also got a journal and some stickers from Con Journals, Shelly. You can check those out at Con Journals too, and check out her videos. So, yeah, all in all, it was just an amazing experience. I'm still flying high, and I hope one day that some of you that haven't been to a con will get to, because it is an amazing adventure, an amazing experience. And, start small. Come to the karaoke. That's free. Check it out. See how get the vibe. Because you'll get infected. I did. And you'll be back. Anyhow, that's the story. That's my experience. Leave your suggestions for stories down below, and I will try and get them into future videos. Let me know your favorite part of About Con if you have gotten to go. And always remember, in the Supernatural family, you are never alone, because we love your crazy, weird, beautiful face. So always keep fighting. Mwah! Love you. Rock on.